Hi, I'm Nicolene Peck, and I starred in an episode of The World's Strictest Parents. And in this World's Strictest Parents reaction video, we're going to be talking about standards and how to raise your standards. In this video, I'm going to take a few minutes and just talk about standards and what it really means to raise your standards. And then we're going to look at some clips from our episode of The World's Strictest Parents that relate to standards, and some of these clips and the reactions of Hannah especially are probably going to surprise you. What is a standard? There are standards for all kinds of things. You might have a standard of cleanliness. You might have a standard for honesty. You might have a standard for what kind of food you will eat and won't eat. Many people have standards, and generally higher standards are considered to be better. Now, throughout time and history, people who maintained a little bit higher standards, say, of living, for instance, usually were the ones who ended up having the most influence in the world. Wait, I said in the old times, but actually that happens right now as well. So when Hannah and James were coming from their house to our house, not only was there a geographic change, but also there was a standards change. Now, the type of standards that they met at our house were very different than in their own families and in their own communities. Not that we're super rich or anything like that, but because of our religious choices and because of the way that me and my husband were both raised, many people think that we have pretty high standards. So there are some things that we will do that other people won't, and some things that we won't do that other people will. That's what it means to have a standard. In fact, inside all of us, there is this place where we know when we have really given our best, when we've shown our best, when we have become the best version of ourselves. Now, who we are comparing that best to can make a difference on what our standard is. The Peck family standards were created using a historical model. So we definitely looked back over history and said, what type of standards have created civilizations and people who have thrived, who have been happy, and who have been able to become leaders and influence the world for good. And usually what that means is when it comes to moral things, they had a higher bar for themselves. So we have chosen as a family to have a higher bar too. Now, that was the thing, if you remember some of the other reaction videos that I've done about this episode of The World's Strictest Parents, it was those very standards that our family had that created a lot of frustration with Hannah and James, especially Hannah. In fact, she went completely out of control just because she did not like a clothing standard that was in our home. So, with that in mind, I am going to take Hannah dress shopping in this video, and we are going to go to a very special occasion, and I want you to see the reaction that Hannah has to standards and finding a dress within our standards, and see what her standards end up becoming in the end. Let's take a look. So this first one, we're in a dress shop. And she, I think, is going into it thinking, you know what? I have a certain type of dress I know I like. But then she sees this dress. And this is what happens.
Having brought nothing suitable with her to wear, Hannah is on the hunt for the perfect ball gown.
That's very pretty.
That is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it has this nice detail in the back. It laces up. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It is nice, It's just amazing, look at it.
Okay, she is so excited. She's like, this is amazing. Look at this. In fact, I remember when we were in the shop that we were just flipping through a few things, but when she saw that royal blue ball gown with all of the fancy beadwork on it, oh, she fell in love with it. She's like, this looks like a royal. Aha. It looks like a royal. It looks like somebody with a different standard of living than she was used to. And she was like, can we really get this one? And I said, yeah. In fact, after she saw that one, she did not want any other dress to even look at. She tried that one on and I knew that was the one. Even though we tried on multiple other dresses, she was like, nope, this is it. She decided so fast. I want to tell you something else about this day that was really special. So we got this dress and she realized, I think, that she was going to be going somewhere pretty high society, kind of special. And she said to me and Spencer, she said, you know what, this thing, this piercing that I have on my lip that I, just got before I came to do this show, she's like, I kind of feel like I want to get it taken out. I mean, that's our standard. That's not her standard, right? But she said, I kind of want to remove it because I want to look, like this gown, like this event. I want to match it. So all of a sudden she was starting to see that she even felt like changing some of her standards. So let's see what happens when we're at the gala, which was something like they had never been to before. Very fancy event at the capital of our state, which people come from all over the world to see the architecture of this capital, a really fancy building. And she got to be part of a big party there. Really cool.
Tonight's charity ball is held at Utah's 90-year-old Capitol building and is attended by the cream of Salt Lake City society.
Oh, I remember that. How fun it was to be dancing with Hannah down in the Hall of Governors in the bottom of the Capitol. So we were going to have a big gala, a big dinner with a big program that would happen up in the rotunda, the fanciest part. But beforehand, there were some drinks and refreshments and some dancing and music and mingling. And Hannah and James were amazed at this party and all the people there and the fancy outfits, the black tie affair. And so I introduced them to some different people who I knew would just be really warm and kind and talk to them. And I think they felt special. I think they felt like they were having a true, unique experience, something they would never do again, most likely. All right, I love this next part. I love what the narrator says because this is totally true. In fact, in the program, the narrator did not nail it every time, but in this one, he did. And I just love that. Listen to this.
For the first time in her life, Hannah's discovered she can combine glamour and modesty.
Yes, that's exactly what she found out. That glamour doesn't have to be showing everything you've got. Glamour can be modest too. In fact, I think she was surprised that she would feel so incredibly gorgeous and glamorous in this gown that completely covered her up. In fact, look at this. Definitely proves this.
I'm all covered up tonight and I feel like the best that I've ever felt. Usually I'll wear little skirts and all that and I'll feel good then, but you can't even see my toes in this dress and I feel even better than what I do with a little skirt on.
It's the best. She's like, look at me. Like normally I just wear a little teeny skirt, but you can't even see my toes. And I feel so good. I feel better than I've ever felt before. And she's just so surprised that the way she feels inside really doesn't have to do with how much skin she shows, but actually how respectable she feels. She's honoring herself and who she really is. She's dressing truly as royalty. And I do believe, in fact, I taught all of my children that we are all sons and daughters of God and we need to think of ourselves that way. So this is definitely something that she's getting a feeling of, even though she may not know that I already knew she was royalty inside her heart. Before I show this last clip of yet one other standard that definitely was on display at this gala this night, I just want to make sure that you know I have so many more of these videos on here. Subscribe to this channel so that you can see the other videos as they come out when I'm reacting to other bits and pieces of this World's Strictest Parents program. Subscribe now. This was a really surprising moment for me. In fact, I never even thought of this. And I had a little chuckle when it happened, and I'll explain why in a minute.
It's more than a week since the teens have had any alcohol. Tonight's no exception.
I don't need alcohol for everything, but I just choose to do it. I don't have to do
at
it.
first, when she said the drink's apple cider, we were like, oh yes, cider, come on, let's go and get a drink. And then when we noticed it wasn't cider, we were a bit gutted, and then I wasn't really bothered after
I
that.
weren't either.
Okay. So what they're saying is that they thought apple cider was going to be alcoholic. And where I live, apple cider is not alcoholic. So I never even thought that would run through their brain like that. So I'm like, oh yeah, do you guys want some apple cider? And they were like, oh yeah. And they went over and then they were like, this isn't apple cider. Like they're drinking it. They're so excited. They're like, this isn't apple cider. And I said, no, I think it is. And I took some of it and I said, yeah, it's apple cider. And they're like, but there's no alcohol in it. And I said, oh yeah. And they're like, oh, well, it's just juice. It's just apple juice. But where I live, there is a difference between cider and juice, and the difference is not alcohol. So anyway, I thought that was kind of a funny moment, but this is really telltale here. So you see them saying, well, I don't need it. I just do it, I guess. You know, there's no real reason that I drink, I guess. I just do. And they're recognizing that. They're like, wait a minute, I just had fun at a party, because they're being interviewed. That little interview bit is actually something that happened after the whole gala, and they didn't have anything to drink the whole time at the gala, you know, and they haven't had anything to drink the whole time they've been at our house. And they're saying, you know, I didn't have anything to drink and I was fine. I mean, it was fun. And they did have a really good time and saw that you don't have to be doing things you'll regret in the morning or getting drunk and high or whatever it is to be having a good time. That actually there's people who can just have a good time all on their own, and that's another skill. In fact, it is. It's an adult skill. So what are your standards? What are those things that are important to you? I know maybe my standards are not your standards, and I am okay with that. That is fine. Every person gets to choose what standards they have and what they feel like is important for them and their life success. And hopefully we can all respect each other's standards, even if they happen to be a little bit different. But what are your standards? It's important for you to know, and maybe it's even more important for you to ask yourself, should I raise any of those standards? Could I raise the bar for myself a little bit so that I even get a greater quality out of life than I currently have? I think some people just live with their standards as they are, and they never question whether they could have different ones, but standards are a choice. So what do you choose your standards to be? That was so fun to see Hannah's reaction. In fact, this is probably one of my favorite spots in the show, but there is one part that people talk about more than any other, and it is in a video called A Tight-Knit Family, World's Strictest Parents Reaction Video. So be sure to find that one, and I'm just gonna warn you, it might be a little bit of a tearjerker. Click on that link now and we'll see you there.